everybody, and welcome back to Gale and Darling's Pokemon Nuzlocke. I'm Gale.
And I'm Darling, and it is spoopy season, everyone. No, I'm Deer. Shoot. Almost got it right
no, you are Darling.
My God. It's spoopy season, everyone.
And the scariest thing is when you can't remember your own name / pet name that I've used for years.
Well, the problem is I use Darling for you, but you very rarely call me Deer.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's because, fun fact for future couples out there, when you're trying to put out pet names, I put out a lot of pet names because my thing was just to send a good night text with whatever new word I picked that day.
I just picked the one and I went with it.
No, and then I said, okay, good night, dear, as like one, and then he responded, good night, dear. I hated it. Not because of the deer, but because it was the same pet name I had just used, and he had decided to also use it. So I was like, fine. Then I will think of another one because we can't both be deer. And so he stuck with deer, and I moved on to Darling as my permanent pet name for him.
Alright, so this spot is the rest spot.
But letting me know that's how pet names really come along. If your parents are like, oh, it was so romantic. No, it's an argument over text over who's going to be called what. Aw, Machoke. He's so cute.
That's not an item I can get. It is. Yay.
I think every item is an item you can get. Otherwise, it wouldn't
Except for
be
the
there.
Voltorbs.
Well, I mean, you can technically get them. I mean, we can't because it's a Nuzlocke, but technically you could just capture every Voltorb. Oh, who do I have out first?
It's been
Ophelia.
a while since we played, so it might be a little rough early on.
Yeah, we got caught up in the 6th season. We took a small break to recover both body and mind, and now we're clearly better than ever.
Yay.
Yeah.
And my cat's gonna eat this fish thing.
Seahorse.
Yes, the seahorse.
You know, I love the idea that, like, original Pokemon were just named after, like, straight up the Pokemon. Like, Seal.
Ooh, Shelter.
seal.
I should have swapped out before. Shelter does not have Arena Trap, does it?
No.
Okay, that's not a thing till later.
Alright, Ophelia. Let's back off. Mr. Darcy, you're cool.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, like, there are some Pokemon that I really love their names because they're so clever. Like, Superior. Like, you just, like, you know it. You know, it's a serpent and it's superior to the other serpents. But it's still just, like,
Tentacool.
such a cool little, like, combination of names that works really well. Whereas, like, I don't know, things like Meowth. Great name. 10 out of 10 name. Meowth. You know where it came from, and we love it now. Or like Psyduck. Kind of misleading, but Duck is in the name.
Well, so now I'm curious, just because we're talking about this as we're kind of considering getting a cat, and we're kind of saying maybe we should wait to do the naming until we actually have the cat. You try to match the personality or any of that stuff. And now I'm wondering, should I try not to be clever with the name? Like, would it be better if I was just like not making a pun, not making some clever portmanteau? Because I don't want it to be too clever for its own good, you know?
Well, I think the difference is a cat is not a species. The cat will be its own cat. Like, Meowths are a species. We call one Meowth because he's great and in an anime, but any other Meowth is not I mean, they're a Meowth, but they're not that Meowth.
I'm also knowing to be really careful. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna have to be really careful with our cat because I do want to train our cat well. Like somehow my parents have their cat at home trained to the point where they can just be in any room in the house and just say meow meow and the cat will come to them. I don't know how they did it, but it worked. But I'm also someone who likes a lot of nicknames for things.
So much so you can't remember your own.
Like we at one point we had a little shelter dog for a bit that we were fostering. I finally learned Payday.
Woo!
Now I can get all of the gold to buy all the hyper potions. Anyway, my mom called this dog Lil Peak because it was a Pekingese. My dad called it Buddy, and I called it Ewok. So I'm pretty sure by the end of its stay with us, it had no clue what its actual name was. Ooh, you look tough.
He looks tougher than any other sailor in this game.
Well, I just did a room of 2 separate ones, so I was thinking like, oh, this guy's alone. It's probably gonna be a higher level then. How much damage does Payday do?
I just love the idea that like the third triplet comes into the room and you're just like, finally, a worthy opponent, and like the other 2 triplets look at you like he's exactly the same as us.
Alright. I'm a little surprised. The colors seem a little more washed out than I remember.
That's because of the screen.
Oh, okay.
You guys at home won't notice any difference. Darling just noticed that one of my screens is not like the others.
Well, I'm just surprised. The Horsey is usually much like brighter blue, and to me it looks really pallid.
Yeah, it's definitely the screen.
Okay. What else have we done since our last video? Let's catch up. So we both got sick at separate points with separate things. I took a midterm and found out that my professor is not only more awesome than I expected, but surprisingly awesome. Because I walked in and right, I didn't have work that day, so I didn't need to dress up, so I was just in jeans and a t-shirt. I was like a Marvel shirt. And I had to pull him aside during the test to ask a question. He was like, oh, by the way, nice shirt. I used to be a big Marvel fan in the day. I have Spider-Man 4. And I was like, Spider-Man 4, do you mean like one of the series? Do you mean like one of the movies, something like that? He's like, no. I have a mint collector's edition of Spider-Man issue 4. Like, original printing. I was like, oh. Oh. He was like, yeah, I'm real. We're okay.
Don't worry, I'm a big deal. I didn't do anything. I've been writing some fan fiction.
I haven't been hitting any attacks because half of what this Horsey's done has been smokescreen.
Yeah, horses do that. Haha, get poisoned, Shelder. Been writing, and I made some videos. You were in them.
Oh right, yeah. I was like, isn't Virginia like a 2-party consent recording state? Don't you need to tell me? Wait, are you a cop? Because if you are, you legally have to tell me.
Yep. You've been dating a secret cop for so long now. You don't even know.
I don't even know what crime I'd be guilty of.
You're guilty of watching too much anime.
I don't even watch that much. Something I realized, there are 3 separate anime. Animes or anime? I feel like it has to be just anime, right?
I usually use anime as a plural.
Okay, anime is fish. There are 3 separate anime that 3 are my favorite shows. Where I have seen all but 1 episode, and that episode is always considered one of the best in the show. But just I either accidentally skipped it and never went back to watch it, or I was trying to watch it and there was some type of technical problem and I just never went back to it. So there are like 3 of my favorite anime that I'm just completely incomplete on.
Which anime?
Cowboy Bebop,
Okay.
the Mushroom Samba episode.
Okay.
I've never seen. Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Senpai.
Okay.
And Railgun. A Certain Scientific Railgun. All of which I love for various reasons. All of which I just never completed. And only ever by one episode. No, there was one other. Oh shoot, what was it? Steins Gate. I'll think of it later.
I was about to say, I can start playing some elevator music to help you think.
We'll add that in post. Do you think there's any actual like copywritten elevator music? And actually,
yes?
here's a question. When was the last time you heard music in an elevator?
The last time I was in an elevator?
Which was when?
When we went to the mall. It was, we went, gosh, it's so difficult to describe. We went to like a mall to do something. I think actually we weren't actually going in the mall. We were using the elevator to go from the car park through the mall to go somewhere else.
Right, yeah. Okay, I know the one you're thinking of. But that one I brought up, it was unique that there was actually elevator music. Because usually, I feel like elevator music died as soon as the term became a thing.
I think that is 100% just you. I think there's elevator music, but it's designed to be so boring you don't
No, like,
notice it.
the last couple of jobs I had to ride the elevator multiple times a day. And still, I never heard any music. Maybe it's just more like a hotel thing.
It
Where,
could
like,
be.
it's actual guest experience and not just employees, because no one cares about, making their employees' days a little brighter. Ooh, I'm getting a little close. And I am missing... I just need to switch you out. I thought I could just grind through this because, eventually he would hit something, but that's not going to happen.
I thought that too, and then a Rattata crit me, and my poor Eponine died, so... you do you.
Well, I mean, you also named her Eponine.
We discussed this already.
We
I
did.
already feel the guilt of the name. Don't need to bring it back.
Horsey.
On the subject of anime, though, I need new anime, but I'm also in this weird state where I'm just so picky about my anime that's why I'm not watching as much. Because, like, I have time, and I have Netflix, and there's stuff on Netflix to watch, but I feel like I've watched all the good stuff that I want to watch that's been on Netflix, and the new stuff they put out is usually stuff that I've already seen. Like, they have Black Butler and Ouran High School Host Club that I watched in high school, but I'm not going to watch that again. They've got stuff like Vampire Night, which, again, was something that was around when I was in high school.
I don't know. Since I started grad school, like, amount of anime I have watched has decreased significantly. Like, in undergrad, I would be like, okay, I'm going to set myself up and watch an episode when I come home from class every day. That's how I'd get through longer series. Which still isn't that many. I usually really like the one-off seasons. Just the kind of concept pieces, like one or two. But yeah, then I got to grad school and it's like, nope, when you get home between 10:30 and 11:30, you just come home and go to bed. That's it. You might eat dinner.
Yeah, it definitely, once you become an adult and you have like a life, anime goes to the wayside, which is sad. But it's just, the evolution of humans. We go through we can watch anything in like 2 days phase.
Well, but here's the weird thing. There are plenty of shows that I will watch. Well, there are a couple of shows that I will watch, like, on the bus or on the train. It's pretty rare, but like, whenever a season of Letterkenny drops, I'm watching that in the morning. The latest season, I only had 6 episodes, so I took 2. It was basically just like, the commute to work, the commute home from work, and I had the season done. But it's also much harder, I want to say spiritually, to watch anime in public. Not spiritually. That's a level of courage I just don't have. This is also where I have to, put on a dress shirt every day and try to look professional and, do all stuff. And I can't do that while I'm watching a show that's notorious for really, really bad camera angles and over-exploitative fan art that's made canon.
Yeah, I understand. I'm of the opinion that I don't care, but then again, nothing that I want to do involves a public image except for this specific hobby we are participating in right now. But my stance is, hello to the 5 people who watch me. If you're here and watching me, you have interesting taste already. Whether or not I watch anime is probably not going to affect that.
Speaking of which, while we're addressing our audience directly, there's one person that we know who watches who's a friend of ours because they sent us a couple of comments on the video.
Like, they'll send us, it's funny, they'll watch and then they'll send us specific comments about stuff and we'll be like, we talked about that months ago.
So just for when that person gets to this episode,
you don't know who you are.
Surf's Up is a wonder. It is a gem. It is a marvel. And not only am I deeply insulted, I will respond with all levels of appropriate fury, hatred, and wrath upon you if you again insult it in such a manner. That goes for you too, dear.
I'm sorry, I'm never going to think of it as a marvel.
It's my it's like one of my, I think it's number 3 when I rank it. Like, it's my top 5 favorite movies.
Darling, we can't, every time Surf's Up comes up, we can't just talk about Surf's Up. We are talking
but
about
it's
anime.
so good!
Surf's Up, the anime of the gods.
Fine. Okay, I do need to make the full video.
Yes, one day I'll just let Darling make a whole video about Surf's Up and put it on the channel, and I will relinquish it to the world and have no part in it afterwards. Relinquish.
Okay. I thought that was an evolution of like a Relicanth that I hadn't heard of yet.
Yes, Relicanth's secret evolution, Relicanth. That reminds me, there was a interesting thread that people were talking about, like the amount of like random numbers and rare chances to do things in Pokemon. Stuff like, oh, Phoebus, like, yeah, a 20% chance of catching it in one of 6 random squares that are chosen when you begin the game.
Okay.
What?
I'm nervous for his next hit.
Why?
Because he just used a focus energy and it's a Machop.
Yeah.
Okay. So
he's also an NPC who's a little stupid, just a little bit.
I know I was worried because that's another game ender.
Is it?
I had a Meowth out. It's a normal type.
Well, yes, but then you had Skipper out. I wasn't so worried.
I switched over because I didn't want it to, like, suddenly it does 40 damage on hit and then it crits.
Oh no, I understand that. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Pokemon. So like, it was talking about like Phoebus being, super rare, and Mirage Island, another super rare event that was generated by random numbers. And I love those kind of things in Pokemon. Just because it's something interesting that you're not guaranteed to see, and you feel kind of lucky when you do.
But also that you are a young child with so much free time that you're willing to put hours into seeing that thing. Yeah,
like when you see Mewtwo, it's great, but you're not lucky to see Mewtwo. Everyone can see Mewtwo.
I don't think I saw Mewtwo.
Well, you can. You just have to beat the game. But it's not freaking like a shiny legendary. That's great. The legendary itself, usually not terribly fantastic, because everybody sees it, gets a Master Ball, catches it. So things like Mirage Island are great, and especially the Reggie's, the Reggie puzzle. I loved that as a kid. That was my favorite goddamn thing. Like Battle Frontier, nah. Pokemon Emerald, favorite game. one of my favorite parts about it is just freaking, there's a whole mystical language, because as
That's
a kid,
just
I didn't know what the heck Braille was. I didn't even understand the need
I should
for
have
Braille.
asked my mom. I'm pretty sure my mom knows Braille. But I think by the point I had even heard of the Reggies, because I didn't, like, when I played any of the games, I didn't take the effort to, like, let's, talk to 100 people on the underground tunnel thingy, and then go see if we can catch a Spiritomb. I didn't know any of those. I wasn't involved in any of the real culture of those. So if I didn't know to look for it, I just didn't. I like, oh, there's a bunch of weird dots on there. Okay, moving along.
Yeah, see, I bought all of, like, the game guides.
Mm-hmm.
And I will cut this briefly because I'm about to face my rival again. I'm not scared, she said a little bit trepidatiously. I just healed.
You are way ahead of me.
Not really, there's only, like...
Well, so I did all the main area.
Yeah.
Before I went to the prow, I went to the low deck.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm fighting the last people that are there, and then I'll go over to the prow.
But either way, he says bonjour because he's cultured. He's caught 40 kinds, and I'm still playing a Nuzlocke. Look, he's better than me in every way except for battling. Hopefully, otherwise my game's going to end very quickly right now. But
the good news about going second and being behind is that you get to, look at the other screen and see, okay, he's got a level 19 Pidgeotto, starts out with quick attack.
You get to scope out the competition.
There's a second.
What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Reggie's. And so, like, I had the game guide, and in the back they had the Reggie code. Obviously, they might have said it was Braille, but I didn't, like,
this was a
look
mistake,
at it.
But that's fine.
But it was just so much fun to be like, ooh, I've got to go find a Relicanth, and I got to train up a Wailord, and I got to get, like, fly and an escape rope and do all these things, because it was like a real adventure. And some other games, like Legend of Zelda has some stuff like this, never like that big, because you have to mostly be telegraphed and everything be able to be solved when you're, like, right there. But
I think there's another game has similar things where it's kind of like the more effort you're willing to put in, the more of these really obscure hidden secrets you'll find. But it's really disappointing because that's Super Mario Odyssey. Where I love the Prosy Divine, where it's just like, okay, where's the last moon? Look up in the sky, 5,000 miles away, there's a taxi, there's your moon. Like, there's so many, like, little hidden areas in Super Mario Odyssey, and things like, oh, now I know that once I do this here, I can probably do this everywhere across all the worlds, and there might be something there as well. Like, they're still discovering, like, new trick routes and hidden areas that you can use in speedruns. I think that's where, like, that's the latest game I've seen where it has that kind of in-depth surprise.
yeah, so, like, saying that in Pokemon, especially at my age when I was playing it, was great. I love everything about the Emerald. I'm not gonna pretend that it's not my favorite game. Not of all time. I've made a list about that.
Yeah.
It's my second favorite game of all time. But yeah, stuff like that was just so cool. And I'm hoping in Sword and Shield there's stuff like that. Like, I know they have the wild area in some raid battles, but I'm hoping that there's, like, cool things to discover that are not just straight up, like, here's the answer, do this thing. Like, the unknowns in, take that, Gary. You suck. Like, the unknowns in Johto. Like, that's always cool to just be like...
I was supposed to be watching your fight for all the tips, and I watched none of it.
Don't worry. It's not too bad.
Have I taken all these trainers on already? I had a weird accomplishment today.
What?
So recently I made a list of bands or artists that I want to listen to their entire studio discography.
Okay.
Meaning just like, okay, all their studio albums, one by one, go through and listen to every song. Because I'm very much someone who finds a song and listens to that on repeat for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally did my third band, which was Simon and Garfunkel, which is my favorite band of all time. So I finally just listened to their final studio album, and like I know I need to do just Paul Simon's entire stuff, but yeah. So far it's been weird. I've listened to all of the albums of Nick Drake, who is an English folk artist from the 1970s, because he has 3 albums. I've listened to everything Gorillaz has ever done, because I started listening to them, and it basically just put it all on a playlist, and I'm like, okay, let's just go through every single song. And now I've done a band that I actually really like, which is Simon and Garfunkel.
Are you saying you don't like the Gorillaz?
I'm saying I like, they're not usually my style, especially they have a lot more hip-hop and rap than I'm accustomed to. I'm much more there for a lot of the folk and disco, or not disco, techno, and some of the rock elements.
Yeah.
Like, I love that each of the characters is supposed to represent a different genre that's insanely clever, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just surprised that, like, Simon and Garfunkel, favorite band of all time, never actually listened to, like, 2 other albums. I only did the Greatest Hits album, for the most part. Because, I mean, it is...
Goodbye, ship. Thanks for waiting for me to get off before sailing to your destination.
These fighters are getting strong. And I have to switch out a lot in this fight.
You say that, but you're level 26 and that's a level 18 Pikachu. What the heck are you talking about?
The last one took my full health Pidgeotto down to like a third in like 2 shots. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to keep fighting that.
You're so funny. Anyway.
Look, I've learned to be more cautious in this run. We both have.
we've both suffered.
There's a new anime out now that I'm actually really curious to watch. It's like the hero is overly cautious. It's an isekai, but the hero is just like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go train until I feel content to fight this boss that I know I'm gonna win. Because otherwise, I'm gonna die. And like some servant of the demon king, whatever, comes up and it's like, oh, you're a hero with great potential. And he's like, oh no, you're level 66. We're not supposed to face you anywhere in the intro. And she's like, yeah, but don't you want to try? And the character looks over and he's just gone. Like, without a second question, he's just running away. It's not even like a, a cute, like, over-exaggerated sprint. It's like a dedicated, this is a quick jog that I can do for multiple miles. I am getting as far away from this thing as possible because I'm going to be smart and live.
I feel like, I hope that's what most people would be like in a real isekai. Mm-hmm. Like, pro tip for any of our viewers who get stuck in another world in their future. Don't be idiots who suddenly think they're gods. Unless that world is specifically like, you are a god and you have the ability to create life in your palms. Don't forget common sense. You could be the first person to die in that world. Maybe nobody else has died. That doesn't mean you cannot die.
We had a discussion recently about which video game universe would you actually want to live in as the protagonist. I mean, Gale had obvious answers, right? It was just Pokemon and Stardew Valley.
Like, Pokemon, any of the Harvest Moon games are peaceful and fine. And my one, like, what's it called?
Caveat?
No. Like a dark horse of choices.
Okay.
Dark
horses. Like
Joker card or something. There's a word for it. Mine is Breath of the Wild. Just because, yes, that is an incredibly deadly game that goes against everything that I would want if I was actually in a game, but it is also so expansive and, like, open and free that it just calls to a part of me that just wants to wander endlessly for hours and, like, ride a horse and just run by things and shoot some arrows to hunt some deer, make some sweet food, and just live that awesome, just Link dude life that I would be willing to suffer the potential of dying just to be like, hey, I can glide over hundreds of miles and just have fun with it. Okay, he's smiling at me, that stupid smile. That means he has something, like, insulting to say that he is laughing at internally. What is it?
I know what game I'd want to be in.
We'll figure out next time on Gale and Darling's Pokemon Nuzlocke run.
It's Honey Pop.
Oh!